Finally, the UCL is back now because international break is a snooze fest. And in the first match day, we have an elite matchup between Newcastle and Barcelona. This is one of the most underrated matchups from what I've seen on social media about people hyping up these games. This is one of the most underrated ones because matchup wise, physically, tactically, squad wise, this is an insane game that we have on our hands. So let's look at a whole tactical preview to it. So if we start with the team news, of course, Newcastle have Wisa out and Jacob Ramsey out. But then you go to Barcelona and they are a bit more unfortunate for this tie. So they have Balde out, big loss. Yamal out, for sure, 100% Yamal is out, huge loss. Gavi out, which for this game would be so important, huge loss. Ter Stegen out, whatever. And De Jong is doubtful. He received the medical clearance this morning to be available for this game. But if he will play or if he will even be available at all, I'm not sure yet. But as we can see here, both teams have players missing, but Barcelona's are obviously way more impactful, important, proven, and of course, there's a few starters here that are missing. But if we go to what the actual reason for this matchup being so underrated, in my opinion, is, it comes down to the play style, of course, of each team, but also the squad composition of each team. If you look at Newcastle squad, I mean, this is one of, if not the most physical teams in the world. Like easily, like no doubt about it. You look at Dan Burns, 6'7", their whole midfield, Joelinton, Tonali, and Guimaraes. These players, this midfield runs for fun. Like if you told them running is bad for you, they would still do it because it's fun to them. Like that's how much these guys love running. If you told them to just run, that's the best day in the world for them. Just run all day. They do not care. They do it for the fun of it. And of course, Voltemad, who they just signed from Stuttgart, he's 6'6", and in his first game, he scored a header that he had to jump like 40 meters up for. So that's of course that happened right before Barca game. But if you actually go to the height factor of this team, Newcastle have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players that are 6 foot or taller. I didn't even know Anthony Gordon is that tall. That's actually surprising to me. I didn't know he's that tall. So they have 7 players that are upwards, that are 6 foot or taller than that. Barcelona, on the other hand, have 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're not as tall as the 7 of the Newcastle ones because they have a 6'6" guy, they have a 6'6" guy as a goalkeeper, they have a 6'7" center back. Like that's a no joke squad that they have. And then, of course, we talk about the physicality of their midfield. The proof is in the pudding. This is going to be a physical matchup, and it's going to be probably be Barca's most physical test, definitely under Hansi Flick, and probably in a while. And especially we talk about the absence that Barca has. Alejandro Balde is not the tallest, but he's a physically PNP, oriented player. He's very powerful. He's strong. He's missing. Gerard Martin is going to have to fill in. He's not as PNP oriented as Balde is. Gavi, who's short, of course, but he is a very physical player. He is very strong in duels. He is not scared to get stuck in, and he would have been a great addition for this midfield against the midfield of Newcastle. And then, of course, De Jong, who's a bit taller than Gavi. He's not as strong of a midfielder defensively or duel-wise. He can win some duels here and there. He's not the strong midfield that you're looking for, but that's also an unfortunate loss to have. Like I said before, I don't know if he's going to actually be out of this game, but the main point here is that this is going to be an unbelievably physical matchup. And why, if we go to the actual probable team sheets, why is this game going to be so physical, and how can Barcelona win this game? So, obviously, for the lineup here, we're going to have Joan Garcia in goal, for sure. Koundé right back, most likely. Gerard Martin left back, most likely. I don't think Joffre Torrens is going to start this game. The center back pairing is where the issue starts because Eric Garcia started on the weekend against Valencia. Obviously, that proved to be much better because Barca won 6-0, but Valencia is not a good team. They're not a physical team, to be honest. They're very poor right now, and Eric Garcia was good for the build-up. But you have to remember that Newcastle have Voltemade, a 6'6" striker who's very good in the hold-up. He's very good, of course, in aerial duels. That makes sense. He's 6'6". How do Barca combat him coupled with their tall, powerful midfield. The center back pairing is gonna have to either be Kubarsi, he's the standard, he starts no matter what, and it's gonna have to be either Christensen or Araujo. Now, if you want to go for pure PNP, you go for Araujo because Araujo is pure PNP. Where is he over here? Where is I don't see Araujo. Here he is. He is pure PNP Araujo. Pure PNP, 6'3". If anything, he compensates for his lack of IQ, I guess, with PNP. He's so strong, he's so quick, but he is not proven yet with his high line that Hansi Flick runs, and that's because of his lack of football intelligence, so to say. So it's either Christensen or Araujo with Kubarsi. Now, if it was up to me, it's going to be difficult because Araujo is just not a proven asset under Hansi Flick, and someone's just going to have to handle and deal with their striker. It's going to have to happen. There's no two ways about it. It's going to have to happen because, especially Newcastle, that's how they play. They send long balls to their tall players, and then they try to find space in the wings to counter and find these through balls off of them. But if it was up to me, I'd probably give Christensen a start. He could still cause issues to Voltemade, but he would also be good on the high line because he's a highly intelligent center back. He's very good on the ball, and that would encompass all the things that Barca would need here. He wouldn't just be good for dealing with a striker. He would also be good in every regard: the high line, on the ball, build up, whatever. Araujo would only be good in one regard, and probably better than Christensen in that regard in terms of handling the striker. But I would go for Christensen and Kubarsi. Midfield-wise, Pedri starts no matter what. He's my first name on the team sheet no matter what. Even if Yamal's available, Pedri's my first name on the team sheet. But who is in the next DM? Casado or De Jong if he can start, or Eric Garcia if he can play there, if he gets put in there. But the issue for me here is that Marc Bernal is not completely ready for this game. If Marc Bernal was completely ready, or if he never got injured the way he did, the level of asset that he would be for this game for Barcelona. In general, of course, in any game, but for this game specifically, he is just so good. He is so physically potent. He is so good on the ball. He is so good as a sole DM to just handle midfielders and strikers. It's a shame that he probably cannot start this game, but I would probably go for Casado. Now, he is short. He has been manhandled before by tall strikers. Sorloth absolutely destroyed him when he played against Atletico Madrid. But he is somebody that is not afraid to get stuck in. He will go into challenges. He will get stuck into ground duels against players. And I think Barca needs somebody like him to at least try to manage some of Newcastle's midfield's power and physicality and just non-stop running. Now, if we go into the 10 spot, I would go for Fermin Lopez. Listen, I've said it before, Olmo profile-wise, what he can do, what he can bring to this team would be one of the most important players that Barca can have. But the key word is what he can bring, which he hasn't done recently, which he hasn't done since the middle of last season. And including the physicality of this game, Fermin Lopez will be more suited for the physicality, more suited for the chaos, as he's not afraid to get stuck in. So I would start Fermin. Of course, he had a great performance against Valencia, so that's also a reason for that. But then I would go for Rafinha right wing because Yamal is injured. I would go for Rashford left wing because he's a bit more physically there than Ferran is, and he's a better left winger than Ferran. And then I would start Lewandowski because he's just a number 9. He's a real number 9. Ferran isn't a number 9 that Barca need. He doesn't elevate the level of build-up that Barca has. Lewandowski is better as an actual focal point for any team because he's a number 9. He's a legendary number 9. Even if he's up there in age, he's an actual number 9 that knows what he's doing positionally. So I would start him, and this is my lineup for Barcelona. If you go to Newcastle lineup, this is probably what it's going to be. Nick Pope, Trippier, Schär, Dan Burn, Livramento at left back, Guimares, Tonali, Jolinton, of course, Gordon, Voltemade, and Elanga. Now, their squad, they could start Lewis Hall and put Livramento right back and take off Trippier. I don't think so. They could start Botman and have Dan Burn at left back. I'm not sure, but they have some. Regardless of whoever they start in the back line, in general, this Newcastle team has strong depth. Willock off the bench will be good. Murphy off the bench will be good. And then they have strong defenders. Harvey Barnes can do a good job off the bench. So this is a no-joke team. This is an underrated matchup. I've said it before. But how can Barca win and how will the game go? Newcastle, like any Premier League team, but even more so Newcastle because they're so physical, they're so big and strength and P oriented. They love chaos. They love chaos. If you think about the second match day of the Premier League this season, Liverpool versus Newcastle at St. James Park, Newcastle should have won that game, and it was because Liverpool were so chaotic. Now, you think about Barcelona, especially recently Barcelona, the second they recover the ball from their opponents, they're one or two passes deep and they're already looking for a goal. They're already looking to attack. If Barca go into this game doing this, where they're just winning the ball, Casado wins it, Pedri wins it, or one of the center backs wins it and gives it to Pedri, I do not want to see an instant pass up and a look to counterattack if Newcastle's whole team is back there. I do not want to see that because it's just going to be a nightmare for Barcelona if they do that because the physicality, the chaos, they cannot win that challenge because Newcastle are just too good in that regard. Barcelona are going to have to go for an unorthodox system, or not system, but an unorthodox method in regards to Hansi Flick, not unorthodox to Barcelona's history, but unorthodox to Hansi Flick, where they have to actually control the ball a little bit. The more they have of the ball, the less potent Newcastle will be. Because if it's a chaotic, lose the ball, win the ball, quick ball recovery times between both teams, if that's the case, forget it. Forget it. I do not see Barca leading with more than a point if that's what the game looks like. Now, the more Barca have control, like I said, if they go into that game with the control that I'm talking about here, if Barca go into this game trying to do what I'm saying here rather than being chaotic and being extremely direct and playing trampoline football, I would possibly start Dani Olmo, but I would still go for Fermin Lopez because I don't know how Hansi Flick wants his team to play in this game. Now, Pedri's going to be very important because he's going to be the controller. If Barca want to play with this control that I'm talking about, he's going to have to be the one orchestrating it. And not only that, he always does it anyways, but he's going to have to for sure be doing it on Thursday or tomorrow because Casado's not going to be doing that. Fermin Lopez especially is not going to be doing that. And of course, Yamal's out there as well to help in the build-up. Rashford and Rafinha are not that good on the ball. So it's going to have to be Pedri doing some crazy shit, essentially, to orchestrate the tempo, have Barca pin Newcastle back as much as possible, and then hopefully then Barca can capitalize off those chances. But if it's a chaos session, forget it. If it's a chaos session, Tonali, Guimaraes, Joelinton, they're going to win so many duels. They're going to find Voltemade in the air. He's going to try to find one of them back, and then they're going to look for Elanga or Gordon, who are rapid on the wings for a counterattack. Gordon's also good on the overlapping runs and behind the striker. So it's going to be very interesting. Elanga, of course, he can hold the width. So it's going to be interesting how Gerard Martin handles that if he's the one starting, which I assume he will be. So of course, Lewandowski is going to be also important with Dan Burn and Shaw going to be on his back the whole game. He's obviously good. He actually proved it against PSG in 2024. That first leg, he was very good at handling Marquinhos, and I forgot who was starting that game. I forgot who started that year. I think it was Beraldo, maybe. He was very good at handling them, being on his back the whole game, and then Barca was building up off of him. That's what Nick Voltemade is going to look to do with Newcastle, and that's what Barca should be looking to do with Lewandowski. But I do not want to see extreme directness. I do not want to see chaos in the middle because Newcastle, 9 times out of 10, win that battle. So I need to see control from Barcelona. Subs-wise, I see Olmo coming on. I see Ferran coming on for Rashford, possibly. I see Bernal coming. If Bernal at any point of this game, if he comes on and plays at least 20 minutes or 15 minutes, he'll be immense. Because he is just so good. I don't know what demographic necessarily watches my videos, if it's only Barca fans, if it's football fans in general. But I've said it on Twitter before. What I saw from him in the preseason and in the first 2-3 games of the season before he got injured last year was immense. Like, this kid is no joke. If he can get back and not relapse from his ACL injury and just come back, like, just have a smooth recovery, be back, and just slot back into the team, regain that match fitness, and he just progresses the way he should be progressing, he'll be a legendary defensive midfielder. Like, this kid is no joke. Talent-wise, profile-wise, no joke. And in this game, he could be elite. If he comes on and plays at least 15 minutes, he will disrupt a lot of chances that Newcastle try to create, and a lot of times that they look for Woltemade or the midfielders, he will disrupt a lot of that. So look, if he comes in, for example, here let's put it. Oh, I have to click it. So if he comes in, for example, he will allow not only Barca to win the more of the ball in the middle, but he will allow Pedri and whoever is here, whether it's Fermi at the time or whether Olmo's on, he will give them more freedom, and now that allows Barca to not only be more dangerous in the attack, but also have more control, because not only is he good for disrupting attacks and winning duels in the midfield, but he is elite on the ball as well. So that's why I said earlier on, it's a shame that he's not going to be fully available for this game. But hopefully, look, Barca going to this game, like I said, looking to play a bit more control than they usually are. Of course, directness is going to be always the main theme of Hansi Flick's system and game plan. But hopefully that, it's not as much as possible. It's not as devastating of directness as possible, because I think Barca will suffer in that regard. Newcastle, of course, their physicality monsters. Like I said, one of the most, if not the most, in Europe. And for that reason, it's a perfect matchup. And I think that overall, I think Barca could get a result here if they do what I said they could do. And if they go into it being a little bit more pragmatic, being a little bit more relaxed, they can get a win here. Overall, what do I think will happen? I think the final result will be either a draw, like a 2-2, a 3-3, or a 1-1 draw, or I see Barcelona winning by 1 or 2 goals, like a 3-1 or a 4-2. If they do what I said. If they don't do what I said, I see a maximum of a draw for Barcelona or a Newcastle win. So let's see how Barca go into it. It's going to be a very strong matchup. It's going to be very interesting to watch, very entertaining, especially at St. James Park, because Barca doesn't have a stadium necessarily right now. So St. James Park will be rocking, and it's going to be a very fun watch. So look, Newcastle vs. Barca. Finally, UCL is back with us, and hopefully Barca can get a strong result here. But for me, it's not about just a result. I want to see a strong performance. If Barca get a result and they're not playing well, I'm not convinced, because it's not going to be sustainable across a whole season to win trophies in that regard. I want to see strong performances, and that's when I'm convinced. So, yes, Newcastle vs. Barca. Let's see what happens. But that was my my tactical preview. I want to see how it looks, and hopefully Barca get a strong result with a strong performance.